happy. She knows that she's cared for and loved. Those are some of the things that I wanted to make sure that she had, and she has them.
I'm happy today with my daughter. She's the greatest thing in my life, and I'm glad to wake up and see her, and everything I do it for her.
Sí, bueno, yo también vengo de una familia separada. Creo que por eso también me motiva a estar más presente con él, de quizás también estar de la forma quizás que yo no la tuve para Máximo, y también comprender que el padre no solo es el que pone los límites y las reglas, sino que también está ahí para hablar, acompañar, regalonear, jugar, cosas lindas también, no solo ser el guía para el niño, sino que también un compañero de vida.
I was more of a elated and thankful because for 3 months I was in baby land. And when you're in baby world, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and hoping you know that you're just supportive in the ways that you can be supportive.
Pero pues aquí pues ya los enseñan un poquito más cosas que uno no sabía, cómo cuidarla, cómo desarrollarla, cómo educarla, y pues es algo bien porque pues cosas que yo no sabía, pues ya usted nos las dijo y todo como consejos, y pues muchas cosas que se aprendieron.
Bueno, creo que por mi parte esperaba algo totalmente diferente, como un programa más frío, por decir algo, no tan cercano a la familia, sino más bien un programa de estado programado para la ayuda solamente. Y a través del programa nos hemos dado cuenta que también pasa a ser una familia con nosotros, porque nos apoya en los momentos difíciles o cuando nos hemos visto en dificultades. Siempre nos hemos podido apoyar en Gaby a través de su programa. Encuentro que ha sido fundamental el apoyo.
You know, my experience has been nothing but positive. Annette has been wonderful. She's on time. She lets me know if there's going to be any changes in the schedule.
Not only did we get the assistance with this program, but we also made a really good friend. I'm happy to call Gabby our friend.
I still feel the challenge of being a parent now in today's world is immense. I think that you need support.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Don't be afraid to take that step. Like, don't be afraid to get help, because you might think that you know what you're doing, but it's always okay to have extra support, and don't do it alone.
Give it a try. You got nothing to lose. It's free. I'm grateful that I took advantage, because it's something that has put me in touch with my child, or closer to my child and her development.
Are you prepared? We're the Office of Emergency Services, and we're committed to providing the most up-to-date and accurate information so that you and your family can stay safe during an emergency. Visit MendoReady.org. It's our one-stop shop for emergency information. You can sign up for emergency alerts, find your pre-established evacuation zone on our current emergencies map, and find hazard and preparedness information.
Imagine you're faced with a disaster such as a wildfire, and you're ordered to evacuate. I'll bet you wish you had more time in that moment. Now's your chance to buy yourself that time. Sign up for Nixle and Mendo Alerts on our website, MendoReady.org. Do it today.
If you want your family to be as resilient as possible, it's important to take some time today and visit MendoReady.org, where you can look up your pre-established evacuation zones on our current emergencies map. You can also find important tools to help maintain your situational awareness, such as the Alert California wildfire cameras and the Caltrans road conditions cameras. We hope you'll take some time today to prepare so that your family can be Mendo ready. Thank you.
Planning Commission with participation both in the person and digitally. The public may participate digitally in the meeting by sending comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.gov or orally via telecom in lieu of personal attendance. All public comments will be made available to the commissioners, staff, and the general public after processing by staff, and can be viewed as attachments to this meeting agenda on the Planning Commission agenda page. To submit public comments via telecomment, please use the telecomment form found at the website listed on the agenda for today's meeting. Roll call. Commissioner Babini.
Here.
Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Purnell.
Here.
Commissioner Pollan.
Here.
And Chair Wiedemann.
Here,
Election of officers.
yes. So our first meeting of 2024, we rotate our chair and vice chair. And so let's, do we have any motions for a new chair?
Would our vice chair consider stepping into the chair role?
I hadn't even thought about it.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. I would consider it, yes.
Great.
Well,
So I would like to nominate our vice chair, Pollan, to step into the chair role.
and I'll second that. We have roll call, do we need roll call? Yes. Okay.
Commissioner Babini.
Hold on a second. We're trying to get some word from Deputy County Counsel.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, because this is technically an action by the commission, if we could just ask for public comment on this motion and the vice chair motion.
Oh, okay. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I will then ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Babini.
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Pollan.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wiedemann.
Yes. Right? And now that takes us to vice chair. And do we have any motions for vice chair?
Would Commissioner Babini be interested in being the vice chair?
Yes.
I'd nominate Commissioner Babini to be the vice chair.
Second?
Can we
Public
have?
comment.
Yes, do we have any public comment, any input? Seeing none, let's have roll call.
Commissioner Babini.
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Pollan.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wiedemann.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Chair and
Yeah,
Vice Chair, and thank you,
yeah,
former
glad
Chair
to-
Wiedemann,
Thank
for
you.
your service.
Yes.
It is a little bit of extra work
Oh,
to prepare for the meetings and just to, track it not only as a commissioner participant, but also in role of chair, and it's appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. It was the transition year, right, in the sense of being chair, when a couple of the commissioners have been here prior on this one, and we didn't have hybrid meetings, and it's a little more confusing, adds another layer. So welcome aboard and good luck to the rest of the commission on this year. Thank you.
Be asking you for some tips, Dana.
I'll be right next to you. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. Okay. Do we have determination of legal notice?
Legal notice has been determined on the matter on the agenda.
All right, great, thanks. All right, moving on then to agenda item number 3, director's report. I don't see our director here. Oh, she is online, okay. Oh, hello there, Julia. I'm gonna unmute you. See.
Any questions?
Would you like to try speaking now, Director Krog?
Can you hear me now?
Very faintly.
Good morning, Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. I have no director's report for you today, but I am available to answer any questions. And just want to say welcome to both the new chair and vice chair. And our office is always a phone call away if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners for director? Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on, agenda item number 4, matters from the public. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so via email or Zoom. For information on each of these methods, call the Planning and Building Department or visit the website listed on the agenda. All correspondence will be attached to the item and made available online on the Planning Commission agenda page. If any members of the public logged onto the Zoom meeting wish to speak under public expression and have not completed the telecomment forms, please use the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Did we receive any telecomment forms for public expression?
Did not receive any.
Okay. And are there any members on Zoom with their hands raised?
We do have one member on Zoom, a David A.
All right. David A., we're going to unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. I'm not sure. Do we need to unmute David, or does he need to unmute himself?
He needs to unmute himself.
All right. David A., if you can hear us and you would like to speak, you need to unmute yourself. Okay, well, we're going to invite public comment from here in the room, and then I'll ask you one more time, David, if you're still there. Do we have any public comment from any members of the public here in person today? Okay, seeing none. David, are you still, looks like you dropped off. Oh, wait, is this for a public comment? Is this on an item not already on the agenda? Great, we'll hear that comment later. Yes. Okay, David, I'm sorry we're not able to hear you, so we're going to move on the agenda. Okay, so I'm going to close the public expression period. All right, moving on, agenda item number 5, consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar. These are the Planning Commission minutes from December 21st, 2023. Do any commissioners have any revisions or comments regarding those minutes? Okay, is there any public comment on those minutes? All right, I'll invite a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Babini,
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Chair Pollen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 6A on our regular calendar. This is case number U2021-0016 and V2021-0005, the Faison Corporation and 898 Main Street LLC. This item has been continued from December 7th, 2023. This is an application for a minor use permit to establish and operate a gas station with 10 gas pumps, 2 separate illuminated canopies, 28 new parking spaces, landscaping, and convert part of an existing structure to a convenience store. A concurrent variance is requested for a 65-foot tall business identification sign. This is a continued item, and the public hearing was closed at the December 7th meeting. I will open the item for public comment regarding the draft resolution when I state so. Mr. Clerk, has there been any additional correspondence or telephone calls received since the public hearing?
All items have been posted to the public website that I received.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have staff presentation in a minute. I do have some public comment forms. If anyone else would like to speak and has not filled out a form, please do so and bring it up so we can call you when it's time. Okay, staff presentation, please.
Good morning, this is Liam Crowley, Planning and Building Services. Good morning, Commissioners. So, as was stated at the meeting on December 7th, the Planning Commission moved to continue the item to the current meeting, and there was direction to staff to prepare an alternative resolution with the appropriate findings for denial of the project based on discussion between commissioners, public testimony, and other evidence in the record. And this included concerns related to circulation and nuisance. So accordingly, staff has prepared the attached resolution, and that's posted on the website as well for the Commission's consideration. So I'll just summarize the information contained in the resolution, and I'll be available for questions. So to summarize the findings in that resolution, that granting of the minor use permit would constitute a nuisance or be detrimental to the general welfare of the neighborhood and those passing through, because increased traffic and transportation impacts would require closure of the US 101 median at North State Street and Yuva Drive intersection. Closure of the median would be necessary mitigation to reduce transportation impacts to less than significant levels. The median closure would eliminate certain turning movements for motorists passing through the area. Closure of the median would be a detriment to the general welfare because it would limit those circulation options and increase the length of trips made to and from the vicinity. And closure of the median would place an undue burden on existing businesses by potentially limiting customer traffic due to the decreased circulation options. Additionally, the findings include that there were no alternative mitigation measures that are equivalent or as effective in or avoiding the potential transportation impacts. And because the variances were proposed concurrently and have no independent value, if the minor use permit is denied, the variances are also denied. So that's a summary of what's in the resolution before you. And I did also just want to note that there were several comments submitted, one of them from Caltrans. You did hear at the previous meeting from Rex Jackman at Caltrans, who clarified a few points for the record. And that comment that came through from Caltrans clarified some of those comments that were made at the previous meeting, expanded upon. So I just wanted. But other than that, that's all I have, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions from the commissioners or the planning staff?
I have a couple of questions. Thank you for sharing this alternative resolution for denial. I had a question about the findings not specifically mentioning the concerns raised at the last meeting about the setback variance. I see that the second paragraph under number 1 there indicates that basically that if the use permit's denied, then the variance falls to the wayside as well. But can we add our concerns about the setback variance as part of the findings?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Godrowski. Because there were 3 separate variances requested, I think it's a little awkward to have a reason for one, but not necessarily specific reasons for the other. And it's just cleaner to simply state that the use permit as a whole is being denied. So there's no reason to go into further detail or information about the variances that were dependent on the use permit.
Okay, thank you for that. Second question, if through discussion and concurrence of the commission today, we were to identify an additional finding, add that today?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Godrowski. I mean, certainly the commission can discuss the resolution and adding things to it. Staff may want to offer suggestions or comments on what that added condition might be, depending on what what the concerns are.
Okay, thank you. All for now.
Commissioner Bavini?
None for me.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes, if we add, I have a question for County Council. If we add any other conditions, would we have to reschedule this, or could we vote on it today?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Godrowski, if we add conditions or if we add additional finding denial?
Additional findings.
As long as we're all talking about things that were discussed at that prior meeting, then I think we're in good shape. We'll take comment on these things today as well, but we'd only have to renotice it if we start talking about issues that weren't raised at all at that prior hearing.
Thank you.
And I don't have any questions for staff at this time. All right, I'm going to invite the applicant to speak at this point. Applicant is here and would like to speak. You're welcome to do so now. I do see there's someone online with their hand raised. Do we know if that person is the applicant? We don't know.
I unmuted them, so they should be able to speak.
Okay, is it Marcy Snyder? Are you with the applicant, or are you here to speak as part of public comment on this item? Oh, the joys of Zoom. Okay, well, we're gonna move on.
You can hear me now.
We can
I'm
hear you
here
now,
to-
yes.
I can speak on, I'm here to speak on public comment. Thank
Okay,
you.
very well. I'll call on you when we come to that point.
Great, thanks.
Great. All right, well, since the applicant did not speak, I'm not going to invite the commissioners to ask any questions of the applicant, and we will move on to public comment now. I'm going to call the people in the room first, and then we'll move on to Zoom. So I've received a couple of public comment forms. The first person I'd like to invite to speak is Dolly Riley. Can you please come to the lectern and speak your name for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Welcome, commissioners and planning and building. I want to make sure you can hear me. My name is Dolly Riley. I'm the chair of the Redwood Valley MAC, and the MAC has weighed in on this issue. I want to first of all appreciate the findings that Planning and Building Officer Crowley read. Those are all valid, and we agree with those at the Redwood Valley MAC and the citizens of Redwood Valley that have responded. But they're not complete, and that's a problem because the findings are an appealable document, and they do not include a number of things I spoke about at the December 7 Planning Commission meeting. One was that the citizens protested about other issues, and that the Faison Corporation has not shown to be a good neighbor, which is pertinent to a majority of the citizens in that area. They were fined $500,000 for multiple violations. 2019, they were found liable for water pollution on Gobi Street. This is all local. They are our neighbors. Of course, selling 89 octane is 91, not quite as serious as polluting people, causing health issues. So the health issues, in a nutshell, were not included in those findings, and we would like to see them included. We think that's pretty important. The idea of the Clean Energy Act is everybody's responsibility, and it is time that planning and building and the commissioners and the Board of Supervisors remember that the supervisors passed a climate emergency in 2019, and we had asked that if the gas station did go in, it would include fueling stations. Well, the fact that by, in a few years, 12 more years, California will not be allowed to sell new gasoline-powered cars says something, which means we will be stuck with a gas station once appealed, and perhaps the plaintiff wins. We'll be stuck with a gas station that will be a dinosaur, an eyesore, and by their past record, Faison may not clean it up. And so I wanted to bring up those pertinent points, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Christine Boyd. Please come up, speak your name for the record, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Good morning and Happy New Year. My name is Christine Boyd. I live in Redwood Valley. I spoke also at the December 7th meeting. And I, again, appreciate what the Planning and Building and Council determined about the reasons to deny this permit. It's very important to deny this permit. But also, you cite in your findings that the minor use permit would constitute a nuisance or be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, or general welfare. I really want to echo what Dolly said. I don't know if this commission has seen the cleanup and abatement order issued by the California Water Resources Board in 2019, specifically dealing with the release of hazardous materials and other chemicals at the Gobi Street Standard Station run by Faison Corporation. The violations also that were cited by 7 Northern California district attorneys regarding, I think it was 12 gas stations in Northern California, including this one, cited 64 known violations. So this is a serial violator, the Faison Corporation. It's a limited liability corporation, meaning when gas is no longer being sold in California and they decide that they'll declare bankruptcy, walk away, and leave a brownfield site, that really fits with their modus operandi. I had 20 years of hazardous materials regulation in Southern California for a large fire department, and I can say that there are not very many violations of hazardous materials and business regulations that get a $500,000 fine levied against them. That's pretty egregious. And when I talked to Mr. Aram, the owner of Faison, about this, he laughed it off and said, well, I've already paid that $500,000, and that's because I think he's so blithe about it because it fits into his cost of doing business. I don't trust this person to manage his hazmats. That's basically what it comes down to. And like Dolly, I would like to echo the fact that I think this needs to be in a public finding by this commission. It's super important. It's even more important than the potentially deadly traffic violations because water and soil and air are the Commonwealth. They are our holdings in California. And when somebody demonstrates time and again that they don't respect the Commonwealth of the state of California, then I think it's time to say no to these people. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Tom, I think it's Rawls? Rawls, Tom Rawls. If you could come speak your name into the lectern and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Rawls, and at the December 7th meeting, I stated that I have a 40-foot easement that runs through the middle of the proposed project. My family has had access to our family ranch since 1944. The easement that we have now was deeded to my family November 16th, 1976, when the current entrance was changed from the prior entrance for safety concerns from Highway 101, now North State Street. Our easement must always be maintained clear to maintain ranching operations, home deliveries. Additionally, emergency vehicles will need access to my property in case of an emergency. The easement is a non-buildable easement. Putting gas pumps to the west and a convenience store to the east of my easement is literally building a gas station over my easement. The staff report from this December 7th meeting, attachment M, page 6, states that the easement was in place before the current ownership of the Faison Corporation. That's true. It also states the Faison Corporation stated they had sought alternative options for purchasing easements from the current owner. As stated at the December 7th meeting, I am the current owner and was never contacted. I understand people's opinion of where one stands determine where one sits. It is my understanding, and I find it interesting, that the city of Ukiah's seasonal ice rink would be longer, but the law office of Anucci, Mumpson, and Morrow, the term that represents Faison, objected to the longer rink due to the fact that the seasonal ice rink would impede their clients' access to their driveway. I urge the Mendocino County Planning Commission to deny this permit. Approving this permit would be a nuisance and detrimental to my family's health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, and general welfare. Since we do reside and work in the neighborhood, it would be detrimental to my family and property improvements. Lastly, the project would greatly increase the likelihood of fatal accidents on 101 if it was approved without the closure of the median. And as findings, then it would change life for the neighbors right now if the median is changed. The project is a bad idea, as numerous agencies, groups, and individuals have already stated.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak who has not yet submitted a comment form? Okay, I'm going to move on to the Zoom participants.
I have David A again.
Okay, David A., if you can hear us, you need to unmute yourself. Please state your full name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you. You know, I'm actually hoping to make a comment about something that is not on your agenda, and I was hoping that the beginning of the meeting would be a place where one would make a comment on items of concern that are not on the agenda, but apparently that section.
Mr. A., we did have public comment for items not on the agenda earlier. Your hand was raised, and we tried to hail you, and I'm not sure what happened with the communication, but we were unable to get your attention at that point. But that portion of the meeting has been closed. We will have public comment on items not on the agenda at our next regularly scheduled meeting, so I'd encourage you to come and show up at that one as well.
I'd like to make one last comment then.
If
Because
is it on this agenda item, Mr. A?
It's about the fact that you tried to hail me and were not able to, because I'm wondering why items like elections of commission members, item, what was it, 2A was already taking place before public comment was open. And I saw many times when my hand was raised that there were times where the chair asked and county council asked if there was public comment, and there was saying that you were saying none was shown, none were showing, and my hand was raised for the entire time. I have been waiting to participate in this meeting since before the meeting started. So I feel like there's maybe some sort of procedural error on your part, where the very beginning of the meeting is the time to start taking public comment before you start the meeting and start electing members and appointing people. That took place before public comment was open for non-agendized things. I don't understand what's going on.
I'm sorry, Mr. A. We're following the agenda as it was published. And Deputy County Counsel, do you want to say something to this?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, we did ask for public comment if staff missed that his hand was raised for those items or made an assumption it was for general public comment. Apologies, we can go back to that after this item and do another run of public comment at the chair's discretion. I might recommend that.
Okay, I will do that. Mr. A., are you able to stay on the line until we're finished with this item, and then we will reopen for public comment for items not on the agenda?
I will wait. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, I believe we had Ms. Snyder was on the line earlier. Still there?
She is still here, and then we have a Dawn Hess next.
All right, we'll go with Ms. Snyder and then Dawn Hess. So, Ms. Snyder, if you could state your full name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
My name is Marcy Snyder, and I'm a resident of Mendocino County and a member of the Grassroots Institute. I encourage you to deny this application and for the minor use permit and associated variances. I encourage you to expand upon the present resolution to include all health and safety issues addressed by the public, both in written public comments as well as orally here this morning. Include the fines and findings by the court in the resolution, because these people obviously have not been responsible to court orders. They have a track record, and it is not a positive one as far as the public goes. Also, please include the easement through the center of the property that somebody has had since 1947, since this family has had. And also, please mention the climate emergency and that soon there will no longer be allowed any new sales of petroleum-operated private vehicles in the state of California. That's happening. We're coming upon that date. I don't see a need for expanding gas stations. We need electric vehicle charging stations. I appreciate you're taking this subject, this issue, very seriously. The people clearly don't want this Frazion Corporation in Redwood Valley. And thank you very much for all that you do. You do a tremendous amount. And have a wonderful and productive meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Snyder. All right, is it Hess? We see that you're
Yes.
unmuted. Okay, we can hear you now, Mr. Hess.
Okay, Chair Paulin and Commissioners, County staff, good morning. This is Don Hess from Gualala, speaking as a member of the Grassroots Institute. We are pleased to see the proposed resolution before the Commission today to deny the requested minor use permit by Faison Corporation. We fully support this resolution as prepared by Planning and Building Services, PBS, which in fact is consistent with some of the arguments we made against this project in our letter to the Commission on November 29th. We cited noise, traffic problems, and nuisance impacts for the neighborhood that we felt did not conform with the limited commercial C1 zoning district as defined by the county. We also strongly argued against this project because of the deplorable track record of the applicant related to 64 violations of gas station health and safety regulations they were charged with in 2022. On January 5th, 2023, in a final judgment and permanent injunction against defendants Mahmoud Alam and Faison Corporation, Alameda County Judge Charles Smiley ordered the defendants to pay a $500,000 fine and to remediate all violations. In addition, defendants were ordered to hire an independent compliance consultant to monitor remediation actions undertaken and report to the district attorney's office. Status reports to the DA were due 3 months after the final judgment and then every 6 months afterwards for 5 years. The Grassroots Institute contacted Deputy DA Alice Sandbach, who informed us in an email 2 days ago that defendants have yet to file any status reports. We felt it important that the Commission and the public be informed of this apparent non-compliance on the part of this applicant with explicit court-ordered deadlines. In the end, it appears that all the time spent over the years by county staff as well as the applicant will have been, to say the least, non-productive. This is in no way the fault of PBS, which has responded in a professional way in processing the application. The problem lies elsewhere in the very structure of Mendocino County's zoning ordinance and the allowable commercial use type of automotive and equipment, gasoline sales in certain zoning districts. Last December, the Board of Supervisors unanimously passed for the second time in 3 years a climate emergency declaration. In the next few months, we will be proposing some key amendments to help the county better align its zoning ordinance with the latest climate emergency declaration in order to directly address the issue of new gas station construction in Mendocino County. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. David A., we see your hand is still raised, and we will get to you in the later agenda item, but are there any other members of the public on Zoom that wish to speak at this time?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay. I will then close the public comment period for this item. Staff, do you have any final remarks? Deputy County Counsel?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I might just go back and confirm with Mr. David A. that he doesn't have a comment on this.
Okay.
In the case he changed his mind, I want to try and redo it, the conversation in a few minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. A., do you have a comment on this item?
I will comment on this item.
Okay.
I believe that
Mr. A., can you please state your full name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
my name is David Eister, no relation to the other David Eister. I believe that the Planning Commission has acted well. If you were denying this permit for a serial violator and polluter, then you have done the right thing. And there should be no moving forward with companies that are serial violators and polluters. We need to be done with those types in this county. We have adequate regulations to cover many different areas of all kinds of commercial businesses, and hazardous materials handling is one of the most important. So as you were, that is my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eister. Ms. Snyder, I do see that your hand has been raised again, but we are limiting public comment to 3 minutes per speaker per item. So if you have something to say later on in another agenda item, we will open that up at that point. Okay. Well then, Deputy County Counsel, I'm looking at you. Are you feeling good about closing public comment?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Gadrowski, I wanted to clarify from Mr. David A. that, if he hadn't addressed this item but wanted to, he'd be given a chance to do so. I think it's at chair discretion to allow any last public comment from people who've already spoken.
Okay. Well, since we don't have a full house, I'm going to let you double dip, Ms. Snyder, if you have a few comments, but if you could keep it brief, that would be appreciated.
Yes, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. There is somebody who's trying to get on, not myself, to make an oral presentation to you. His name is Peter McNamee, and he hasn't been able to raise his hand via Zoom. Is there some way you can help him get on so he can make a comment on the Frasian item?
I'm not sure.
Yes, I can pass him through. I just didn't know because he didn't raise his hand.
All right. Mr. McNamee, if you unmute yourself, go ahead and try and speak, and we'll let you know if we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcy, for bringing this to your attention. Yeah, I'm on the Zoom, and I've repeatedly hit the raised hand function, but it does not register me as wanting to speak for some reason.
The technology gremlins.
Yeah, technology gremlins. So I'll keep my comments extremely short.
Thank you.
I support the Planning Commission's denial of this application. I wanted to make sure that I went on the record on behalf of the Grassroots Institute, which as an institute has taken a position in opposition to the granting of this permit. Also, I think that the reasons stated by the commission are very valid. I would add that in addition to the ones that were already mentioned by other speakers, I think the granting of this permit would cause serious problems for the members of the Redwood Valley community in that they would not be able to have a secure and safe egress on and off to the freeway with the added traffic that this would produce and the probability of casualties from a serious accident for vehicles crossing those high-speed intersections would be significantly increased. So I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today, and I applaud you and others for acting in the public's interest, both in terms of a traffic sense, but also in the environmental issues that have been raised by the other speakers here today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Mr. Eister, I see your hand is still raised, and I did give someone else a chance to speak again. So if you would like to speak on this item again, you're welcome to do so. If you're waiting to speak on the, there you go. If you take your hand down. Great. Thanks. All right. Well then, Ms. Riley, if you'd like to say a few final words, I open this Pandora's box and we'll see what comes out now.
Thank you so much. I don't think I even used my 3 minutes, but I want to talk another 30 seconds.
Please.
I don't know if the Commission for Planning and Building is aware that in the last 2 years, there was a prohibition on new fossil fuel stations in the city of Petaluma, Sebastopol, Cotati, Windsor, Roanoke Park, Santa Rosa, and Calistoga. This is not off the wall to say that we do not want a new fueling station. Just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I also just wanted to let members of the public know, we did receive in public comment as an attachment the cleanup and abatement order for the Gobi Street station. And so that is a matter of public record. It is part of the record on this item. So it has been considered and is in the record for all future appeals. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good that we're going to close the public comment on this item. All right. Staff, do we have any final comments?
Liam Crowley, Planning and Building Services. I have nothing further, thanks.
All right. The applicant doesn't seem to be in the room, so they're going to waive their final remarks. I'm going to take this back to the commission now. Any commissioners wish to ask additional questions of staff? I'm going to say Commissioner Wiedemann.
Thank you. I do think we could make, if what I want to do is if we add anything to our, the reason why we're denying project. I do think it's important that we spell out that the proposed minor use permit as presented by the applicant will negatively impact the existing deeded easement. I know we talk about the easements in there, and that I understand by denying this, we're denying the whole use permit. But I think our concern as a planning commission, and I'll speak for myself as a commissioner, and also what I hear also from the public participation is that we want to make sure when this goes, if it goes up for appeal to the Board of Supervisors, that we have a very clear written proposal of denial. And so I understand by denying this project, we're denying the use permit as presented. I get that. But it's what I'm just putting forward.
Commissioner Babini?
I don't think I have anything to add with the notation that the previous violations on other properties were included in the record. I don't think that they findings specifically, but they are included in the record for.
Thank you. Commissioner Parnell?
I have a couple of additional questions for staff on this, and also wanted to just note that I did have a conversation with Deputy County Counsel the other day about the theoretical possibility that this and if the board were to basically grant that appeal, I just wanted to confirm with council that the project would still be conditioned, and I got an affirmative back on that, so I wanted to give county council an opportunity just to elaborate on that if you find it necessary for the benefit of the entire commission as well as the public. And I've got two other questions too, so I'm gonna load up staff and county council with three. That was the first. The second is we've heard the rationale for not including the variance and part of the findings, but is it at the discretion of the planning commission to include the setback variance issue as one of the findings? That's question number 2. Question number 3 is, can this commission make land use findings based on the applicant's prior environmental record?
So Deputy County Counsel Matthew Godrowski, to address the first question, that was a very short version of it. The board will, if the board takes this project up, if it's appealed, if it's denied, and if it's appealed, then the board would get that and have its own review of that. If they did grant the appeal, it would have the opportunity to review the project and figure out where it wants to go with that. In all likelihood, given that this project at least has a currently drafted initial study and potential mitigated neg deck, there would have to be conditions to address any of those issues for that point. What those conditions might end up being, given board, future board discussion on this, it's an unknown. So it isn't that I can't say that this would obviously be a condition by the board, given that I don't know where those discussions would go. But that is certainly a likely possibility if it does get appealed and approved in some form, that would have conditions, but very difficult to say what those are. Even as a note that both for an item in front of the commission, it can get into the weeds on issues raised in the initial study in terms of, are these the right kind of issues? Was the analysis correct? That's obviously a question that the board would have as well, possibly. So that's the elaboration on that point in particular. In terms of the issue of the variance, I do think that I would prefer not to have one of them stick out as opposed to the other two. If we really thought we had to deny all the variances, I probably would recommend we address all of them, as opposed to what we have now, which is they're all denied because the project is denied. The idea of denying the variance because of its possible impact on one specific easement holder who would have his own rights in terms of litigating anything that's against this project or the property owner, I'd recommend that being a reason for denying this. It can certainly be part of the record and part of the discussion that was, as this goes forward to the board, that it was considered by the Planning Commission and noted, but in terms of that being a reason for a finding that this is a general nuisance because of how the easement might, the project is generally designed around that easement, I'm not sure that I would recommend that's necessary to get into that level of detail given the denial of the project. And it would just take more time, I think, to draft that. In terms of the third issue, I would recommend against adding a finding specific to the past conduct of the operator. Certainly there's case law on point that you can't add conditions to a permit based on the applicant. This is a land use entitlement. So I think I would recommend the same logic in terms of a denial of a project. I would recommend against denying a project based on conduct that's not relevant to this piece of property and based on what was elsewhere. Again, part of the record, so it's a known quantity, but given case law and not adding conditions regarding the identity of the applicant and keeping it limited to the actual land use issues at play, I'd recommend against denying it on that basis.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I've got something for the commission now, and that is that and this is based on prior discussion at the previous meeting, which I was not at, but I did review. I would be supportive, and I'm curious if there's commission support for adding an additional finding to deny based on the inconsistencies with the C1 zoning district that was brought up by people during public comment. It was also raised by Caltrans in their letter submitted. Page 50 of our packet states this project does not appear to conform with the C1 limited commercial zoning as defined by Mendocino County Code Chapter 20.088. The intent section says, this district is intended to create and enhance areas where public facilities and services are available. It is also intended to facilitate a balance between jobs and housing, provide for the possibility of live workspaces, and provide additional opportunities for affordable housing. A limited number of retail, commercial goods, and services are desired primarily to meet day-to-day needs of local residents and to facilitate livable, walkable communities and live-work opportunities. Typically, this district would be applied in conjunction with residential uses and would permit only those uses which do not significantly increase traffic, noise, or other impacts. I am in strong concurrence with Caltrans and other public comments as previously stated that this project does not appear to conform with the C1 limited commercial district, and if the commission has broad support for that, I would like to see that added to our findings for denial.
Thank you, Commissioner Purnell. I just have a couple quick questions, and then, and one of them, I guess, is piggybacking off of that question. I guess my first question is, and I think that I heard this clearly, but it feels that just for the sake of the public who has urged us to include findings around past environmental harm, that could potentially make this decision by the board more susceptible to legal challenge in the future should we include those findings. Is that your analysis, Council?
Deputy County Counsel, that's correct.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the next question was around the C1 zoning, and this is for staff. I imagine staff provided some analysis of that in your original proposal, and I'm curious to hear your reflections on Commissioner Purnell's questions around the compatibility of this use type or this use activity in the C1 zone.
Sure, this is Liam Crowley, Planning and Building Services. So as you mentioned, there was some discussion in the staff report about whether or not, I guess, the project would conform to the intent as was read out of the C1 zoning district. And there is some discussion, and the conclusion in the staff report is that it is consistent. However, I think reasonable minds can disagree on some of those points, and certainly if the commission would like to provide, I think I heard some I guess, reasons for why it might not be consistent with the intent of that district, and certainly that's the feeling of the commission, then we could take that into consideration.
Thank you. And I guess a follow-up question then for Deputy County Counsel on that one in terms of timing. Could a finding be prepared today as Commissioner Wiedemann requested so that we could conclude this item, at least in front of the Planning Commission today, or would your office need additional time to prepare such a finding?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I first want to see if Director Krog on Zoom wants to add anything to the conversation.
Okay, great. So you're not in the room, we can't read you as well.
That's okay. I was just saying it's hard. I can try to do the raise hand maybe a little bit better, but so I just speaking to the intent component, you know, the C1 zoning district does allow this type of use with a minor use permit. So it's challenging from a staff perspective to be able to say that this use is inconsistent with the zoning district when the zoning district specifically allows this with a minor use permit. Now, with the minor use permit and the findings that are in the proposed denial resolution, we speak to those required findings that cannot be met regarding nuisance, detriment to the public health, safety, morals. But I would be concerned about expressing that this is inconsistent with the C1 zoning district, as really that's something that should be more addressed through a zoning code amendment or other alternatives, not necessarily on an individual project by project basis when it's listed as an allowable use type with a minor use permit. So I do think that the better approach is to rely upon the use permit findings that are required and base the Planning Commission's decision upon those required use permit findings and whether or not the project conforms to those.
Thank you, Director Krog. All right, any additional questions or comments from commissioners?
I'd like to hear Director Krog's feedback on the variances that we were discussing. The whether we define them a little more in the sense of, or the easement, so to speak. If we should, it's in there in the paragraph because it's in the use permit application. By denying it, I understand we're denying it. But do you have any other insights to some of our concerns, the commission we have stated? Is there a way that could be more clearly written?
I hear the concerns from the Planning Commission. And then also, I will say I agree with the comments made by Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski as well on this point. You know, I think we've talked about this with the Commission in the past, that our office does not regulate easements, private easements. Those are landowner to landowner agreements, and we do not regulate those. So, you know, I would be concerned about making a finding based upon impacts to an individual easement on the property. I do still feel that you have written in this proposed denial resolution the finding regarding the lack of conformance with the required use permit findings, and related to that, you're stating that, you know, these variances cannot move forward without the use permit component. So I don't believe that it is necessary to speak to these individual or the individual easement that's been discussed, but it is part of the record. So, you know, going back through, if the board reviewing this on an appeal, say the applicant decides to appeal it, they will be able to see that there was this discussion regarding this easement. And additionally, property owners and adjacent landowners, anybody who wishes to provide public comment on this will be able to have that opportunity to provide the same level of comment that they provided today and at the prior meeting on December 7th at any future board meeting if this item is appealed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Purnell, do you have anything additional?
Oh, just a quick summary, which is that it appears that, and I thank staff for your responses, truly. It seems that the concerns of the commission and the public go beyond what is considered reasonable to include in the findings for denial. I'm not totally happy with that, but I can accept that. I can accept that because I think we have a lot in the public record on this, and I can live with that.
All right. Commissioner Babini, do you have any final comments?
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wiedemann?
No.
Okay, great. Well, then I will close the public hearing on this item, and the matter is now before the commission for our consideration. Any additional deliberation before I invite a motion? Okay, I will invite a motion from the commission on the draft resolution. For now, it looks like you're trying to get the language lined up. Perfect. I
am trying to get the language up. Is it on the resolution itself? Okay, great. I move that the planning commission denies the minor use permit for a gasoline service station and convenience store, and that the planning commission denies the related variance applications regarding signage and setbacks. What else do I need?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Gadrowski, I think a motion to adopt the resolution.
Thank you.
Denying the minor use permit and the related variance applications.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the resolution, deny permit U 2021-0016 and V 2021-005.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Wiedemann,
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Babini,
Yes.
Chair Pollen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. We would be having agenda item number 7 now, but I would like to reopen the public comment for items not on the agenda today. Mr. Eister, I see your hand raised. You would state your name again, and you have 3 minutes for public comment. Again, this needs to be on items not on the agenda, but within the purview of the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much for returning to open public comment. I really appreciate it. Happy New Year. Well, last year, this Planning Commission held a hearing for a cannabis prohibition zoning overlay for the petitioners who were residents of Rock Tree Valley. And, you know, the petitioners really had no standing to ever come before the Planning Commission, nor the full Board of Supervisors. They should have been rejected at the Planning Department desk. They had no demonstration of any effect from commercial cannabis operations. Commercial cannabis operations were already prohibited by zoning in their area. They had no effect and were never affected. And they brought arbitrary reasons before you to demand a zoning overlay. I believe that the root cause of this very, very bad incidents is really a flawed section 211920 of the cannabis ordinance, because that section is the section that creates the zoning overlays, has no requirement for any petitioners to show that they are actually affected.
Mr. Eister, we've lost your audio. I don't know. You're still there? Yep. Mr. Eister, I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to come back online, and then invite you to come back at our next regular scheduled meeting if we don't hear from you. Is it anything on our end? Can we tell?
No, it's nothing on our end. He's still not muted. I believe he just lost connection.
Okay. Oh, and it looks like he has dropped off now. Okay. All right. Well, sorry, Mr. Eister. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, but we are concluding today's meeting, so I would invite you to come back at our next regular scheduled meeting. All right. Agenda item number 7 then, matters from staff. Any items from staff? Seeing none. Director Krog, do you have anything?
No, I was trying to unmute to say no matters from staff.
Okay, great. All right, then moving on to the next agenda item, matters from the commission. Any agenda items or any matters from commissioners?
I do have one, and it is a request of staff to come back to the commission with a report on how the vacation rental public workshops went. Super curious about what happened there and what the discussions were like and how they may have differed from community.
The one in Ukiah was fun. All right. Any other agenda items? Okay, great. Moving on, I will invite a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting today.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone.